Mhm. So while we wait, I'm just gonna be here until we get started. I'll hold off for another 2 to 3 minutes just to see who joins. It's the very first live cast. We do have a topic of conversation. We do have a couple things we can talk about and go over. Um, Again, I think I dropped it over in the chat. Drop where you're from, share where you're logging in from, how you're feeling. You can use an emoji before we get the conversation started, which will be in about 2 to 3 minutes. Until then, I'm going to mute the mic just so that you don't hear the background noise, and I look forward to joining the conversation with you. So I'm gonna unmute my mic. It's okay. I'm gonna unmute my mic. I am sitting with my daughter while we wait for you guys to join. I'm actually planning to just get started, and I am gonna upload this to YouTube, so you'll be able to watch it later anyway. Um, but yeah, I think it makes sense that we just go ahead and get started. So, really, today's topic, we're gonna be talking about finding our voices. I could most definitely uh, start the conversation with a very simple question, right? Like, do we choose to lean on the side of comfort or courage? And like, what really prompts us to make that choice of really taking a stance and really speaking up or speaking out in different areas or different spaces, right? So I'm gonna be very honest. I might be a coach, and I might have what I have, and I'm very blessed and grateful to have it. But let's be honest. Sometimes we become so jaded that we just do not want to engage. We don't want to be a part of the conversation. We're just tired of being told that it doesn't matter. We don't need to we just don't feel the need to do anything because nothing is going to change in the end anyway. And I'm not gonna lie, I felt the same way. I felt the same way. If you're feeling that, and so like that's really why I wanted to have this stream be called "Finding Our Voices." Um, for the most part, it was extremely frustrating to be in a space where my work is my passion, and my work, if I didn't share it, is in human services. And a lot of people you'll hear say that your fallback can be used as your come up, and that was most definitely mine. I lost my significant other when our son was 10 months. It's not something I wanted to happen. It's never something you expected to happen. Um, and he passed away, and it was absolutely devastating. It shook everything around me, shook who I was, who I thought I was, how I was going to go about life. And it was crazy because I sat there with this 10-month old and tried to figure out, like, what's the next step. I have no idea. I don't know what that would look like. And from there I found myself exhausting funds, resources, any and everything you could possibly think of to just pay things off, pay things down, and then figure out like what the next step in my life was going to be. And I honestly and truly, truly, truly do believe that your fallback has to be your come up in some way, shape, or form, right? And with it, um, I ended up in a very unusual space. I ended up on public assistance. I had lost both my jobs. And I have family from both jobs that it was really really interesting a space to be in, um, and in doing so they really did rally around me, and my family rallied around me as well, and the friends that I do hold close rallied around me. And in doing it, it wasn't clear. Like it didn't tell me like what I should do next. It didn't provide me the guidance. And oftentimes, like if you set a goal and you're really ready to move, sometimes, well, most of the time, what's blocking us is us. So from that, I ended up on public assistance, like I shared. And from that, I ended up in a program, and I was sitting in this room where you oftentimes, not you, but it is often shared that there's a stereotype of a people who receive public assistance. And it is not the easiest space to be in. From there, I networked, connected, communicated, and truly engaged. And I ended up getting a job there. I ended up getting a job there, not, and it was so unexpected. And I'm gonna just share with you now. I'm not putting anybody's information out. I'm not. Um, I don't want to put anybody's information out who has not given me consent. But the call that I got, as I was supposed to be starting this program, it it had, I could not put it into words. And the question was, how would you feel if you had my job? I see you can do my job. And the only thing I had done was, you know, orientation. I hadn't even done anything. I just lost both jobs. I'm sitting there with the baby. I'm trying to figure out what the next steps are. And then this wonderful person is saying, I'm going through a lot. I feel like you could do my job. How would you feel if you had my job? And it started this path of me seeing things differently, because before then I was sitting in these classes and workshops and just run of the mill. I honestly felt myself just going through the routine, and something hit me. There's a lot of people telling me what I need and telling me what I should be doing, and nobody has asked me what I need and what I should be doing. And I looked like around the room, because I remember sitting in this room with like 12 or 14 other people, and people were, I've been doing this for years. It's the same thing over and over again. Nothing's going to change. I'm just doing it to get it and get going so that I can make sure my kids will eat, or I need to make sure that I can pay bills at the end of the month, or figure out how I'm going to double this or triple this, just to make sure that something is happening or something is moving. And I remember getting a case manager like everybody does. And I could have sat there and was like, I'm not gonna lie. I sat there for like the first couple of days or couple of weeks, and I was like, I'm so over this. If everybody else is over it and they're saying that this is what this process is, then what hope do I have that it's gonna be different for me? Sitting with that person as my case manager, she changed my life. I don't know if she knows it. She probably does, but like, she honestly changed my view and how I felt about what I was doing, and what I what I really walked away with was, how do I how do I continue to do what she's doing? How do I get and find the opportunity to um just how do you it was such a different it was such a different feeling having someone there who really supported me. Um, there were a number of other people who were a part of the conversation, a part of the growth, a part of just what I needed to figure out to do, that I realized that this one person is not looking at me like I'm a number. She's not looking at me like, your number, whatever it is on my caseload. She didn't do that. And I thank her for it, because I I don't think I ever really had the opportunity to tell her thank you. I think she actually left before I did. Um, but like, it was one of those things where she really put it into perspective for me, right? So she every week I would come in there and she would tell me, she was like, Ms. Wade, you're not going to come in here and tell me you couldn't achieve this. I know you're not going to come in here and tell me that you couldn't get this done. And I know you wrote notes. I know you took notes. I know you did this. I know you did that. And I am sitting here like, yeah, I could do it. Yeah, I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. And over time, I realized that, it wasn't her making me uncomfortable on purpose. It was her telling me that I had a purpose. It was her telling me that, um, at some point in time, you don't need me here as your case manager, right? Um, it was baffling. It was absolutely baffling. And then, from there, it was like having, people on staff, like a job developer who isn't really looking at your resume to say, just apply for these jobs. You have people there who are truly trying to support you. They're trying to help you grow. They're trying to make sure that you have what you need to be successful. Um, it all played a really, really, really important role. Um, I started realizing in that space that I wanted more. I didn't just want to work in a space where I was able to touch the customers. I want to be able to create a change because I saw there was a shift in how customers saw themselves in spaces like that. You get this feeling, and I know I had this feeling that I was defeated. Like, this is the lowest of the low. What could be worse? Um, and I remember starting to have conversations with friends and family and people that I would just meet in passing and have conversations with. And now you don't share the story, you don't share your whole life story. Um, but it was interesting to constantly hear the trend of, you talk like you understand. You talk like you know what's happening, what's going on. And I did. I do. It's not an easy space to be in. And while I wasn't there for long, I was there long enough to understand why I was there. Um, I ended up moving, changing positions, and it was harder. There were different challenges. And I still realized, like, this is not it, but it's closer. This is not it, but it's closer. And I kept that in my head for so long that I started to kind of see what I needed to do and where I needed to go. What I started to do from there was write down every time somebody poured into me positively. I started to write down what I learned from that person and how that could play a part in the larger purpose or in the larger space. It was absolutely phenomenal. It was absolutely phenomenal. And from that, I was like, oh man, I made it. I honestly sat there and was like, I made it. I realized that in these spaces that I was in on this journey, I had to make a choice: comfort or courage. Because my first ask was that I have somebody who can help me, just figure it out. Family may think they know, but nobody knows better than you. And I didn't like sitting in a space with somebody who was going to hold me accountable for me. I just wasn't feeling it. But they did. And it was uncomfortable. And I realized that going through that space of being uncomfortable, that I have to be okay with this. I have to be okay with this change if this is what I want. And I started choosing courage over comfort. And then that courage turned into being comfortable. I started getting used to standing up for people every opportunity I had. I didn't realize I needed to balance that, because while I might be comfortable in speaking up, somebody else might not be ready to speak out. The more I moved up, the more I moved around, I started to become complacent. It wasn't until 2016 that I realized coaching was going to be my thing. Teaching was going to be my thing in this new space. I started having smaller groups. I started talking to people, providing them assistance, and just the strategies. You're never telling somebody what to do. You're simply trying to figure out how you need to lay the groundwork for someone else's goals. And that's the part I struggled with, because I kept wanting to tell people how to be successful, right? Let's be honest. Nobody can tell you how to be successful. No one can tell you how to do the next thing you need to do, but they can provide you this space to just think through what's happening in your own head, right? I then kind of started realizing that I am making a mistake. I need to back up. I need to back up. I need to make sense of this. And um, it wasn't happening as quickly as I thought it was happening. I didn't realize that I need to back up because I was doing the absolute most. Um, Once I got it, I then established Build, Rise, and Thrive. And I was at that point like, oh, I'm going to make it. This is going to be it. I'm pushing it out there, making it the best thing I could possibly think of. I'm doing what everybody else is telling me to do, and everybody is like, "Oh, you should do this. You should reach out and do that, and you should it should look like this. You should talk like this." And that on top of my work, and it all came in like I am not being my most authentic self. I'm just not. I'm walking and talking like everybody else, and it doesn't have the ring of me to it. It doesn't speak to who I am and what I want to share. I then started to kind of back up because I kept failing. I mean, there's just so much failure there, but I kept failing. I kept failing, and I kept wondering why I was failing. I was failing because I was doing what other people wanted me to do that worked for them, and it didn't work for me. Even down to doing a YouTube channel. I mean, it doesn't start off big. And if you're a perfectionist, then sometimes I'm sure you know this feeling of wanting to kind of come in the door and make the biggest impression possible. And, you know, as you're making the biggest impression possible, you're making a mess. You're making a mess because in order to get the splash, you got to start with a ripple. And I realized, I needed to back up. I see a question. How does it feel to be different from the others? Confused and frustrated. And it may come off negative, but it wasn't. I was confused because you see a lot of people doing the same thing, and you see the other end of it without seeing the work that's being put into it. So I was confused about how do I find myself in a world or in a space that's already established? What does that even mean for me? And what am I supposed to do in this space? And I think that's really why this space I wanted to call finding our voice, because sometimes we get lost among other people wanting to talk, or we feel like everybody's already said all the good things, there's nothing left to say, or I just be repeating what everybody else is saying. But what you learn over time is that sometimes it's not what's coming out of your mouth, it's your tone and intent that really drive home, what it is and why it's important in your own mind and in your own goals and your own visions. And how it felt as long as around being frustrated, it's what the heck do you do next? How do you differentiate yourself from everybody else? Because you're in your head and you're like, well, there's a whole group of people doing this, and you know I want to do something different, something similar but different, and you're caught oftentimes trying to figure out which one makes the most sense. And it's not easy. It's not easy trying to figure that out. So once you kind of get out of your head that what you're doing is not like everybody else or not what everybody else is doing, then being you is extremely comfortable. And you may say, well, we've heard that before. Nobody's changing that, or that's not different. You're absolutely right. But the difference is you don't understand it until you're doing it. And not everybody can make that jump the way you've made that jump or somebody else has made that jump. Um, so it's easier for you to work on you, to find you. You may see a lot of people in your age group who are successful, who are just kind of running through life, and you see them and you're like, that's what I want to do. The question is, When did they really identify who they are? When did they get to a space where they were no longer comparing themselves to what society says is the standard of success? And that's the beauty in coaching. That's the beauty in really helping somebody to find themselves at their own pace. Uh, our success will happen when our success happens. And we all have the potential to do that and achieve that. And I think that's the best part about seeing somebody start and kind of work through a lot of their challenges to come out on the other side. They, at that point, they have found their voice. And it's one of those things that you can't you really can't put your finger on it. It's really difficult to do. Um, so I love it. I absolutely love it. And so, I'd ask to open up the conversation to whomever is, joining in or would like to, is how do you see this space being open to represent who you are or your voice or what you want to share? How do we do that? I mean, for me, I'm from DC, and it's just a blend of things, of people, and we need to be represented. I will share that being a life coach is not common in DC for the pieces and parts of DC that need it. When I started doing this, with all business models, you want to always do market research. And when I found out that in DC, east of the river, and in south, southeast and certain parts of northeast in DC, there is not representation like me in those spaces to encourage people to really move beyond where they are. Um, However, in human services, that's exactly where we're going. Um, with addressing a lot of the challenges that families face, you move away from a trans a transitional eh, transactional approach to a more transformational approach. So you understand the person and the people instead of making sure that the boxes are ticked off at the end of the day. However, I don't honestly believe that this ability to really motivate and drive the conversation in a positive way um, should happen solely in those spaces. I honestly believe that we can all be a part of the conversation. We can all create that change. And what I'm asking is that we open this up and we all create ripples together. Because at the end of the day, that's exactly how we create the the larger splashes, the bigger impacts. So I don't want to drag this out because I know we're already at 29 minutes. Um, but at the end of the day, I want to just thank and thank you all and just show appreciation that this is happening. It may not be all together, but it is together. And the longer I waited to do this, the longer it would have taken me to actually do it. So what I will try to do is do this more often, do this more frequently, and really um, make sure that I'm not the one driving the conversation. I really, really, really want you guys to drive the conversation. That's not for me, that's for you. I just really want to be a part of creating a platform and a space for us to do this. So with that, in fashion, like I said before, my idea was to create a movement. My company is called Build, Rise, and Thrive. And with that, I'll end with building strong to rise with intention to then thrive with courage and confidence. And that's really what it's about. And so I will do this again next week. You guys just look out for the link, look out for the information. I will get it out sooner this time. I know today I did it, it was on a whim because I needed a swift kick in the butt to make sure I was going to do this today. Because I had lost courage, I had lost just a lot of me. I just felt winded and just did not know how to get back up and just do this again. So you know, family is an amazing thing to have because they know when to kick you and get you up and moving sometimes. So that's the only reason I'm here. That's the only reason I'm in this space. I thank you. I appreciate you. I love you.